The tragic Gabby Petito case has captivated the US media. A woman who went missing and later found dead after an extensive search by several law enforcement agencies. However, the case has also brought up systemic failures of news agencies. Many are criticizing them for once again focusing on the plight of an attractive white woman when hundreds of women of color disappear and don't receive anywhere close to the same attention, if any at all. This has been named as missing white woman syndrome. Do you think that this issue is real? If so, why do you think it exists? And do you see the media ever being able to do better? How could we make that happen? Yeah, so Gabby Petito, I guess most people know. I'll be honest, the moment I saw this woman's name and had an inkling of what the story was about, I checked out. Not that it's not important, because everyone, in life is important. I wish, that this woman would be found safely. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. But it's just that this is a story that we're all familiar with. And I'm sure all of you in the audience can name quite a few of these cases in the past that captivated the media, captivated the country, and it's all that people could talk about for weeks on end. And it seems like the biggest case, a missing person, once again, is something that is important. It's important to your family. I hope something never happens to any of you all, like either to yourself or to someone you're close to. So, I mean, it's definitely something of merit. But the relative airtime that these things get, and it seems like it happens for a very specific type of person. And yeah, so I want to kind of dig into is this a problem, and what can be done about it if it is a problem, if anything at all. So yeah, we'll get started. We'll do introductions first, and then we'll jump into it. So Captain A. Jones, what do you think?
For example, women are victims of crimes. They're not coming forward because society doesn't take it serious. And so these true crime podcasts are growing that mostly depict white women being victimized. But there's a start, there's an end, and so there's a bit of satisfaction there. But I worry that it's kind of like catnip that just kind of medicates us, and we don't really address the underlying problems.
Else?
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point, that the idea that crime is supposed to be a story with a clear beginning, middle, end. This is where it started, this is what happened, and this was the result. And how stuff like true crime media plays into this. It might make it so that a lot of ongoing cases don't get as much support as the finished ones, when in reality, and this is gonna sound really harsh, but sure, we want to get a justice for a girl who's already dead, but if there's a girl out there who's alive that could be saved, I would, every time out of the 10 out of 10 times, try to save that girl. But because we have this oh my god, beginning, middle, end, want or thirst for a story, media might not cover cases that actually save people and stuff like that. And I mean, it's probably, I don't know if we can necessarily say that's their job, right? Because at the end of the day, it's a very, 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 very small amount of cases that get any media attention, right? I know not the neighborhood they live in, but in the city that I live in on the other side of town, we were driving one day, and all the streets got blocked off, and somebody was shot and killed in the middle of the street, and not a single newspaper covered it, not a single news station covered it. It disappeared the next day. And it's such a small amount of things that get any media coverage, especially this massive media coverage, that I don't know if necessarily blaming media for this kind of stuff would be are like saying it's their responsibility to cover like the right things is necessarily like a responsible thing to say. I'm not saying that like it's unresponsible either, but
Well, I think that the media is perhaps like the biggest I have to slightly disagree because I think the media is like the biggest thing that we have to focus on because there's the defense that for like if we want to defend like the media on this, you could say like, oh well, it's the consumers that want to see these stories because they're gonna they'll talk about it, they'll talk about it on social media, and then they're gonna watch the news. But I don't think that's necessarily the case. I lean more towards the idea that it's the media deciding what the people are going to be talking about. So, like the 13 soldiers that died in Afghanistan, like I brought up earlier, soldiers die every single year in our conflicts, and nobody talks about it. I've spoken to conservatives that are convinced, even when you present them with the evidence, that no soldier has died under Donald Trump ever. They just refuse to believe it. But that's because the media isn't talking about it 24/7. But imagine if the media did, whether it's like the 20 something soldiers in like 2017, 2018, 2019, and then I think that you would see the people talking about that issue, you see the people being more aware and all that stuff. I think the problem with the media is that it's completely profit driven, and the profits are short term. So they would, and during the Trump era, they would rather talk about the drama. Right now, they want to talk about one specific case with one specific victim, rather than the many uh, black, brown, indigenous people all around the country that go missing every single year. So I think I don't know if there's a policy prescription for this. I really don't know, but I would hope that the media could somehow talk more about the real stuff, or like, well, this is real, but like the very important stuff. And I think we would see less of a what's it, the white woman syndrome, the missing white woman syndrome. You would see less of that in society if the media was more responsible with their coverage.
So
Somebody says in chat, these people are all media. Very true. I am the media.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Yeah. So like, yeah, I'm not sure that I would say that it's probably more profitable for them to cover something like this that's getting a ton of social media coverage. It's a really easy story to get like someone sad about.
Mhm.
Like I think I would say that it's definitely like they're doing it because it gets good ratings, and because people are interested in it. So like I just not that I necessarily disagree with anything else you said. I just think that the media, yes, because it's a business, is going to
Yep.
do exactly what's in its in its shareholders' fucking interest to do, which is make money. And so that's then, like you were saying, when I was just nitpicking that to agree to then agree with your overall point, like you were saying, like the media does. It's because it's a business. It has to be like one of the problems with it is that we don't have like enough subsidized, in my opinion, enough subsidized media sources like NPR, etc., out there
Yep.
with enough funding to really do good stuff. I mean, not to say that I don't think NPR is doing good stuff. I think they're doing fantastic stuff, but I would love to see another version of NPR or some kind of publicly funded news source that could cover stuff like this. But ultimately, I do think like it's not really something that we can get rid of because
Yeah.
like I'm obsessed with this story. I've been covering. Yes. Oh, I'm part of the news. I'm covering this story. Hilarious while I'm playing Project Zomboid. But yeah, because it's like I think it has so many angles. Like I was saying at the in my I believe in my opening statement, like you could look at this from a white privilege standpoint of how the fuck did this guy wait, I don't feel like I could have gotten away with that. Just saying, oh no, I plead the fifth, and all the fucking say, let me get a lawyer, plead the fifth, and I can come home with my girlfriend's car and without her after a fucking road trip. Like that's crazy. How the fuck? I don't know, but I guess there you go. My girlfriend's on the couch, and well, we all know where his girlfriend is, so I guess that's the difference.
Yeah, I want to clarify what I was saying. So, in terms of like, media covering the right things, right? I think it's like kind of, it could be incorrect to say they should cover the cases that are going to save the most people, right? Someone can make that argument, but I think that's like maybe not the media's responsibility, right? But something that I do, and this is like one of my favorite things to talk about, is how important like representation in media is. And I talk about this a lot when it comes to African Americans, but it's definitely true when it comes to women and crime and stuff like this. Showing different demographics of people and different situations of people is really important. Because a lot of time, for example, the example I like to always bring up is like the Black Panther movie. That was the first time like so many people in America saw a movie with a mostly Black cast, right? Like and like these types of things expose people to things and types of people and lifestyles that they've never seen before. And I think when we say something like I'm not sure how true this is, but in a lot of articles I've seen that like where this Gabby girl went missing, like something like 700 indigenous women have gone, or 712 indigenous women in the last 10 years have gone missing, right? And it's like, well, I'm not saying that they have to cover only the indigenous women or anything like that, but somewhere in the news there should be a missing indigenous woman, and when there's not, that like shows that there's a problem. And I do think that media companies like ought to be aware of like who they're covering, and like actually this, like maybe like I don't know how you would like do this. I don't know, like I'm not like proposing government policy, but like I don't think it's necessarily bad to have like sort of like an affirmative action mindset in terms of media to make sure that every different type of person's story at some points gets heard.
So I think something that's wrong with this conversation.
Wow, Prime. Okay.
Is that we haven't called
Okay.
the
No.
media
Tell us
companies
what we've
evil
done
yet?
wrong, Prime. Go for it.
This is how you've all failed me. But and it's something that I do too, and like where everyone does this is we kind of, when we talk about the media, we talk about it as this monolith that is outside of us and society, right? These media organizations are made up of journalists who are people drawn from our own nation, our own society, that reflect the prejudices, the biases that you find there, good, and like and the sensibilities as well, right? So it's like, well, the media should do this. Well, I don't know if the media will ever actually advance unless we advance together as a society, right? Like, who's going to be in charge? Who's going to be the editor in charge? Who decides among the stories? And like, here's a story. Here's something I had heard from a woman, a newswoman, who was African American. She was talking about how she was, part of like a TV newsroom, and they were going through their stories because like they have like meetings where they go through different possible stories. They pitch them, At some point, someone pitched a story about, I believe it was like a missing Black girl. And the consensus in the newsroom, including from herself, from this Black woman, was like, oh no, this is not a story worth talking about. It's like, no, this is not going to get any traction. She only later on did she like think about it and like, well, why did I think that? Like, why is it this particular story isn't important when we run stories like that all the goddamn time, right? And it's because society, the society that she lives in, the society that she's influenced by, has these sensibilities as to who is vulnerable, who deserves protection. And we draw conclusions as to what must have been the case rather than we have literally no evidence, right? Rather than simply reporting on the fact that this person is gone, person is missing, possibly in trouble, like you already draw conclusions looking at them, looking at their demographics as to what probably happened,
Prime, are you saying Brian Laundrie was innocent?
I have no idea.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm even.
But yeah,
I
but yeah. So my point is that like it's like, what are we expecting of the media? Like, the media is a reflection of ourselves, right? So what are we expecting of them if if the general populace isn't any better?
So I do expect people to like get better, right? Like, not just the media, but I do think it's really important that like when media, and especially like there's different types of media and stuff. Like when Netflix puts a show on like Netflix, of course they're obviously thinking about all the different things, and like I'm pretty sure the race conversation probably with Netflix. I would say it definitely comes up. With like other places, maybe not. But there's actually, oh fuck, I wish I had the study on hand. But there's actually data that shows that just having people, like different types of people in the room when you're making these decisions can lead to better outcomes. Like just having like a woman in the room when you're making decisions on things, or like a black person in the room, can kind of fight against some of these biases. And like and not to say that it's going to eliminate it. Like you said, they had they had a black person in the room, and they still made I won't say the wrong decision, but they still excluded the black girl's case. But little things like that are really important to like helping fight the fight, because like I said earlier, it's a feedback loop. I don't think it's just that media is a reflection of society. It is partially that, but when media reflects society, right, the lens in which it reflects it, it also reinforces our view of society. And when you reinforce our review of society, then you see how it like feeds back, because now the guy who goes to make that decisions, opinions are like, or view of society is stronger, and he's going to make the same like exclusive decision. And so like something that's really simple is like having different types of people in the room during these conversations, or considering hey, you got a lot of white people for this next week. Maybe we should throw in a story like can someone write a good story about like an African American or an Asian or an indigenous or person or a woman, right? There's a lot of space for little small things without like putting all the blame on the media company because they're brainwashing us with their narrative or anything like that.
Yeah, I think that this is why I brought up in the earlier statements that I think that I don't think that it's fully nefarious. I think that there are people simply acting because they want to get the clicks or the views or the public's attention. So that's what's profitable to talk about, like the story about like a missing white woman. But I am struggling with this question, whether I think it's more the media reflecting us or us reflecting the media, because people are very ignorant. So the media, but would they be less ignorant if the media told the more detailed stories, So it's kind of hard to put into words, essentially. Like, it's kind of like a who came first, the chicken or the egg? Like, are they responding to consumers or are we responding to them? I think, and it's not like a one fits all situation. So with like the girl that got murdered recently, I think that's them trying to accommodate us. But when it comes to different areas of politics, like with a conservative media talking about race issues, or media in general trying to push for war, I think that that's more of them trying to shift our perspective on it. So if we're looking at situations where they're not necessarily trying to shift our perspectives, but ultimately they're shifting our perspectives away from other very important stories and onto this one story, that's why I keep talking about like, okay, now this is like a media responsibility problem. Once again, I have no idea how exactly we're gonna fix it. I did like what Captain A. Jones had to say. If we had more NPRs besides just NPR, I think if we have media that's not necessarily driven exclusively by profit, you might have more real stories out there. Now the question is, I mean, I have a feeling that more people watch CNN, MSNBC, Fox News than they watch NPR. How exactly do we get fact-based news to people's perspectives? Well, I will say, my final point on this, I think people are also getting better. People are getting smarter, and you can see that with like Netflix, for example. They're pushing about documentaries about really real stuff. So Netflix making a documentary about criminal justice reform. Netflix making a documentary about people running for Congress. That's just one example, but you can see in social media, you always see a now this video everywhere. Even if you're like a normie, you're always gonna see it. Some of our big celebrities are now political commentators. Hassan, Vosh, Destiny. Destiny is not as big as Hassan, but but like
are these really? I'm sorry. I refuse.
no.
I
The point being,
refuse to think these people are celebrities. Okay, they're
No.
celebrities in the world of
Okay.
Twitch.
Pseudo
All right, these are
celebrity.
not real celebrities. No offense.
Wait.
With all love
Hassan
to
is. Hassan's got a lot of people on Instagram, on
Oh.
YouTube, on Twitch. He knows a lot of the normies, okay?
Okay.
So I respect him. But the point
Fair,
being is
okay.
like people are being
One dude.
I think we're gonna get better because people are paying more attention in their casual life. I hope we see a situation where like you get home, watch TV, you like your TV show, and then you go on your computer and go watch some news, and you're enjoying yourself.
So I really want to push back on this because I know what you're saying. You're saying you're essentially putting forward Noam Chomsky's manufacturing consent as an argument.
Yes.
And hey, look, I love me some Chomsky. All right. But like I don't think that this and I don't think it's nearly as bad as
Mhm.
when Chomsky was writing about it. That was a different time before the internet and before
Yeah.
every single person had the ability to post their often shitty, my own included in those shitty takes, like opinions and do it, and be able to like network and grow their little things that they got going on and blah blah blah. And so like I really think I really think that it's less that like maybe when you're talking about CNN and the big news agencies, yes, but especially when we're talking specifically about a case like this where it's like a pretty white girl and her like attractive fiance and ambiguous circumstances, but I just we're all talking about this and I think like and that's because it's interesting and attractive people have that I guess the what is it called, the pretty
Pretty privilege, I guess.
pretty privilege, that's what it's called. Thank you.
So what you just said, oh sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
No, I was just
yeah.
gonna make one last point, just saying like I think that really in terms of like why we're all talking about this, it's because like we are all obsessed with when something like this happens, and like it's really a reflection on us and how kind of terrible we are as a society. Like I think that we could get obsessed with this stuff, and this is so much sexier than 13 soldiers or whatever it was. I don't even remember. I don't even fucking remember. You know what I mean? What, 13 wets? Okay, boring. I'm talking about fucking Gabby Petito right now. All right, we're talking about this super interesting case that has so many different facets. We've been at war for 20 years. I don't know. This is more interesting. Fuck. Not to say that that's all not interesting and that we shouldn't be talking about it and that I shouldn't know what the fuck I'm talking about, because I should.
Mm-hmm. Your point you made about the manufacturing consent, I see where you're coming from, that maybe it's better now than it was then. But honestly, I'm like trying to think about it. I'm not 100% sure. I mean, maybe it's been marginally better, but I don't know if it's that much better because while we have our internet celebrities, they're not bigger than the mainstream news. And the thing is, half of the new internet commentators are like conservative dipshits that copy the same talking points as the mainstream conservative media. And that's why you get like these young conservatives that and they don't even know about they'll start talking about like critical race theory when Fox News starts talking about it. Like they got like the same people handing them the script. So I think that there is more different ways we consume media, but we still are faced with a lot of the problems that Chomsky was pointing out back when he made manufacturing consent. But I still, and this isn't like a solid thing 100%. I really don't know which has more of an impact, whether our consumerist mindset is influencing the media or whether the narratives that they try to push influence us, broadly speaking. With this issue in particular, I think it is like with the issue of, or with the situation with the girl that got killed, I think that that's us influencing them more. But I'm curious about like broadly, which has more of a weight to it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I definitely agree. Like, I think that I mean, I just wonder, like, I wonder to the American psychics, like, maybe I'm just really just anecdote Andying it right now, but like,
Yeah,
to
me too.
well, oh, we all are. Hey, hello. I'm Captain Andy, Captain Andy Jones. There we go. That's what the A actually stands for. I had no fucking idea before. So like, but yeah, like I really think that this is on us. This shows more reflection of us, and I'm criticizing myself in this. I'm not trying to leave.
Mhm.
I'm not trying to say that I'm not a bad actor in this. Like I think I said it off the top. Like I've been covering this from day one, and I'm super speculative about it. And like I'm part of the problem. I'm part of the problem if you want to put it like that. But again, you know, why is it less why is it less sexy? Because I can't think of any better word right now. Please put a better word in there if you can. But like it's less like popular to talk about the 13 soldiers dying rather than this case. And I think it's because like this case is pretty unique. It's a unique thing. Yeah, we've all seen a rhyme and a variant of this before, but it's a unique case as a lot. And if you're into true crime, which I just got into true crime not that long ago, holy fuck. Oh my God. I got so much content to go through. It's fantastic. it's so good. Oh, anyway. But like if you're into this shit, then like this is gonna fucking interest you. And I know true crime is a fucking huge thing. I'm just getting, you know, into what everyone else has known about for fucking ever now. So like I think that all those reasons are why I talked about this rather than something else or whatever.
I just want to say, okay, all of you guys are the problem. I didn't even know who this Abby Potato person was, anyways. You guys are all part of the problem. I looked this up right before the panel, like 5 minutes, okay? But what I do want to say is I think that we can try to figure, like, if you really wanted, you can try to figure out like who has more power. Is it the people or the media? But at the end of the day, I think what's more important is that the media has more power to act and change, right? The media has the ability to literally choose like the stories they put out and stuff like that, which is like why I'm a massive proponent of like diversity and inclusion in media, because for a lot of people, like I said, I used what did I use before? I used Black Panther as an example. Black Panther, that was the first time a lot of people saw a movie with a mostly Black cast. A lot of time, like I know me personally, one of the things that like got me around to the idea of thinking that gay people weren't weird was like seeing them in like TV shows and being like, hey, that's like not that bad. Media, and not just news media, but like all media has like the power to shift a lot of these things, and they have the power to act on it. It is really, really, really hard to make a prescription for what a person should do. Like if you know a racist person, how do you make someone less racist? You can just stop hating Black people. Go down to your local square and talk to 10 Black people a month. Like, what do you tell like a racist person to do to not be racist? Go like talk to Black people. Like, it's really, really, really hard to like make prescriptions when it comes to individuals and how to like get rid of like the biases. Like they can expose themselves to things, but media has the power to put out things that lots and lots of people see, that expose lots and lots of people to things they've never seen before. To tell stories. It's like the whole point of like we talked about how like the true crime thing. Like people like a story, and if you tell stories that include things that people don't necessarily that haven't been exposed to, you can like broaden people's like frames of reference. Which is why I think it's really, really, really important that we talk that we push the media to be more responsible and like the stuff that they put out. Because at the end of the day, like telling the racist white guy from Alabama to stop hating black people is way less ineffective than Marvel putting out like Black Panther when it comes to exposing people to like African American and like or media in general. Yeah.
This is why I think representation is so huge and we just have to force it. I mean, there's a conversation going on right now on Twitter about this panel. And when we started, we had just guys on here. And I know Prime had 2 women booked at the beginning and 1 bailed, and then Anna was just a little late. But it's something that we all play into, right? Because there are plenty of panels talking about issues that people aren't represented on there. And so just to make it more local here with Twitch, like I love that you guys are talking about that we do all play a personal role in this, because for me, the media is a business. They're just trying to get you to sit through the commercials to find out about the new Jeep Wrangler. And if Flamin' Hot Cheetos is where it's at, they're going to put that in everything. And so they're just giving people what they respond to. But if we as a society force representation and get different types of people in those boardrooms on those shows, then yeah, I'm 100% with Top Dolphin. That's how you change people's minds, because I went to high school. There were no openly gay people when I was in high school. I never met a trans person until I went to a protest in LA. And it was that interaction, that humanizing those people is what caused me to change my opinions. Not that I had shitty opinions, but I just had no opinion. I had the stereotypes that were given to me. So I think representation is huge. And people will say, well, we want the most qualified people. I don't even care about that, because I think there's bigger issues at play than just qualifications, and it's society's at large that's at stake here.
So yeah, I totally 100% agree with the representation in like the boardroom in the boardroom structure. I think that it needs to go. I don't think that that's enough though. Especially when we're talking about like the law that got and trust me, I think it's a great first step. But like the next thing that really needs to happen is to look at the managerial structure, because it's one thing to, okay, so you have a woman of color or a person of color on your panel or on your in your boardroom, but it's another thing to have all the managerial structures, the CTO and the your head of fucking whatever engineering and your head of product and all these people, and they're all white, and they're all white men. And then that and all the people. Okay, so maybe they have a little bit of diversity under them, but ultimately it's like the managers and people like that, people with a lot of power to make the real like the big decisions in the company that that need to be that diverse people. And unfortunately, yeah, like that hasn't been addressed.
So I wanna address something that IRI said. So
I know what you're gonna say.
You do. You were here previously. All right. So yeah, you brought up that apparently people are complaining on Twitter. Well, of course, people complaining on Twitter. Wow, shocking news. More details at 10. No. Yeah. So we had a situation. I invited 4 women to be a part of this. 2 said yes. One had to drop out, and Anna was just a bit late. But apparently that had a reaction from individuals. However, what if we could get no women to be a part of this? Does that mean that I would have to cancel this discussion? That we literally can't tackle this at all? That we couldn't do it in a responsible way? And the criticisms would still be valid against the panel? Like, even if we said all the same things, with Anna here or with Anna not here, we said all the same things, like, is this just manifestly worse without like, the whole with identity politics playing into it.
I'm sorry, the chat made me laugh. My bad.
I would just I would love to hear Anna's opinion. I would
Ah.
just like to say really quickly, like, for people out there, y'all motherfuckers have never tried to do a scheduling job in your goddamn life where you tried to schedule shit. Like, that shit is hard. It's real fucking work. People don't understand it, and until you fucking do it, like, that's what I gotta say to those fucking people. All right. Because yeah, I know Prime. Like, if you know Prime for just 2 seconds, then like you'll understand he does make an effort to attempt to be as fucking equal as he can, and you just got to work with people's fucking schedules and shit, and sometimes shit doesn't work out. Sorry. Not sorry.
We'll go to Anna and then IRI.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree that representation is obviously important, of course. And like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think that like, obviously like it's still like you're still able to have the panel and stuff, even if there's like no women or whatever. I mean, the only thing you might be missing out on is like, maybe like having like a woman on the panel, for example, would like be able to remind, I don't know, like of like a perspective, like I don't know, suggest a perspective that like maybe as men like you didn't think of, like things like that. So like it's just a kind of like a bit more helpful, I guess, in that regard. But yeah, I mean, identity politics to some extent, I mean, yeah, it's true, representation is important though. Primarily though, I think it's for the impact it has on like young people though, especially, and like just kind of thwarting like stereotypes and tropes and stuff though too.
Yes, exactly. And like, so that's a fantastic point, because in a space like this, like where it's a panel on Twitch and it's like it's one dude trying to do this shit, like how much are you gonna expect on CNN? You're damn right. I fucking expect fair representation in the people that I'm seeing on the screen. You know what I mean? Because I expect them with all their fucking resources to be able to achieve that. But on a Prime panel, like, come on, it's one dude. Like, let's please. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Really
Give some
quickly.
fucking.
I'm
Let's
sorry, really
be a
quickly.
little charitable here, y'all.
Really quickly. Like last night, if there was a woman on the panel last night, but sometimes there isn't women on the panel. If there ever is a lack woman, don't worry, I can easily fill in the role. This picture from last night, I looked really good last night. I put eyeliner, is amazing. But yes, I'm gonna keep that on there. Proud of this picture.
So one thing I want to say is kind of poking at Captain A. Jones a little bit, is that with the and I'm gonna tie this into the what Prime said. But when you're talking about women, when we're talking about people, not women, but we're talking about people having representation in like boardrooms and stuff, and you're like, well, what about the manager? Like that's important too, but like it's specifically important in decision making conversations, right? Not just like right now we're not really making any decisions, right? We're having a conversation, we're like engaging in the marketplace of ideas. And I think that like while it's sad if we don't have like a woman here in a conversation about women, right? It's not the end of the world. But when you're making hiring decisions or you're making policy decisions and not having those types of people in the room, or like workplace decisions, that affects people's life way more. And so like you want those voices in those types of rooms. And to kind of bring this back to Prime, Prime, well, first off, Prime really tries to have women and all types of voices represented in this panel. And fucking Twitch streamers don't know how to fucking show up to things. Myself included. I've bailed on them a couple of times and I feel really bad about that. And I'm so sorry, Prime. But I've been on here 4 times this week, so like I'm making up for it. But at the end of the day, something that's really, really important, and specifically in like male-dominated Twitch and even more male-dominated Twitch politics, is in a space like this. I would say it's also very important for panelists and viewers to make a space that's accepting for women to come in, because it's very similar to like
IRI afterwards. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's very similar to like the women in gaming conversation. Is that like Well, if you invite a woman in and then she's treated like shit and she's harassed and she's just hit on by every second dude that's in there, she's not going to want to come back. And we need to like create a space that's like a lot more inclusive. And so on a scale like this, in like a super male dominant environment, that's a very important thing. It's like creating that environment, making it okay that Anna wants to come back next time, and making it okay that like Prime can get more women in here and getting more women interested in something like this.
IRI.
Yeah, first of all, I want to say if anybody has tried to be inclusive, it's Prime, and I don't mean to levy that charge at all. That's not what I was implying. I don't even think Prime was saying that I was saying that. So I just want to put that out there for the audience. I think Prime tries very hard. This is the guy who invented the Amazon Lily, where he just sat back and let women talk about women's issues. So if anybody is pointing a finger at him for that, then that's ridiculous. But I do think the end result is what matters to a lot of people out there. My first reaction, Prime, would be to say, we did everything we could. Can we not talk about these topics just because we're not directly impacted? Though I think we are directly impacted by this, going back to my first point about how if I go missing, I'm not a good-looking white woman. I'm not going to get the media signaling that someone else would. So I do think that we have a stake in this. But nowadays, after having been on a lot of panels and been around this space for a while, when I hear grumblings about something, I pay attention. And I understand there are people that just criticize for criticizing's sake. But I really lean on the end result is what matters. And I think that in a small way, representation, even on these panels, does matter. And if we want more women in this space, then we have to give them more representation, as difficult as may be. And I understand people cancel. I understand. I've booked panels myself. And again, I'm not pointing a finger at Prime here. I'm pointing a finger at all of us. I say this on my channel a lot. We all play a role. Everything from every single line you type in chat to what the streamer says on the stream. We all play a role in who feels comfortable in this space.
So
yeah, I totally. I'm sorry. Just to respond to that.
I just want to get this in before we move on. Yeah. So one, it is hard because for anyone who's doing this, our reach is only so long, right? Like we've talked about this before. Like I have my audience, you know, who I can draw from. If you want to be a part of these things, and that's it. My audience isn't actually that big, so it's whoever is listening, and then from there, whoever wants to be a part of it, and then from there, whoever has the time to do it. So like it really narrows it down and makes it very difficult to make that happen. I think I'm not trying to let myself off the hook, but I think there's a difference between what I can do, like again, a CNN or MSNBC can do at a moment's notice, right? But so there's this other conversation that I've been desperately trying to have, and I'm solely, everyone else has already talked about this, but I've been desperately trying to have it here on this space, the small council, the Texas abortion law. I've wanted to cover. We've not touched it at all here, and it's because I wanted to do it here on this space because I thought like this is the best space that I have currently available to do this. But because of issues getting women on, I've like continuously pushed back. I've like canceled it, like even last minute I've canceled it. But like I do have some men who could come on and have a discussion about that topic. And like for instance, I have someone who knows the law very well, and you could have a really, really good discussion about like the implications of all of this. So should I, since I'm having trouble getting women on for that particular conversation, should we not have that at all? Like, is like not having, so is it better to not like address issues? Let's pretend that my Twitch channel was so fucking important that if this wasn't talked about here, no one would fucking know, right? Let's pretend that we had that reach. But would it be better to not address an issue at all? Or address it and not necessarily have all the people, all the groups, the major stakeholders, people representing the major stakeholders involved. Right? If people simply don't know about an issue or not digging into it, then is that, you know, yeah. So I'll let you all answer that. Nathan?
I personally think, if Prime wanted to talk specifically about the upcoming Filipino presidential election, me as a Filipino would be fine with that, even if he has no Filipinos on the panel. I think you should talk about whatever, even if you don't really have the person of the group. Especially when you're Prime's bigger than me, but he's not the biggest streamer out there, you know. So if he struggles to find someone to come on, it doesn't mean that the issue is less important and shouldn't be talked about. I think issues always need to be talked about. So personally, in my opinion, if you wanted to talk about the abortion law, I think it would be completely fine if you were to talk about it, even if no women show up, because it's nothing against women. It's just it's hard to schedule, as Captain A. Jones was saying. Scheduling is difficult. If you think scheduling with Twitch streamers is difficult, try scheduling with fucking political TikTokers, bro. That shit's
Oh no.
ridiculous.
Or just
It's
like
a
random
fucking
people. I
nightmare.
had a job where I did a shitload of scheduling. Like I swear, like fucking 30% of my fucking job was just scheduling. And like, oh, I had like a fancy title, scheduling. You know, that was a big fucking thing, and that took a lot of my time. Like it took like it was one of the things I did the most of.
Mhm.
Okay, but you can't explain all this to every single viewer out there, right? And so the end result does have an impact on people. Do you guys not agree?
So I do agree, but so just on that point, like if Prime was CNN, totally,
Mhm.
I'd totally agree. Or if Prime had like
Well,
if,
but it look, in all fairness, Prime is CNN to some degree in this space. He's one of the biggest
Wow.
streamers. And
That's
we,
awesome.
I know he's humble about it, but this guy is influential in this space, and this space means a lot to a lot of people, including me. Again, I'm not
actually
trying to
totally
drag
agree with
Prime
that.
here. I think
Yeah.
I love that Prime's willing to have the conversation, because it's totally something we should talk about in this space. It's huge.
I didn't even know there was controversy about this panel on Twitter. I didn't even know that.
Look into Twitter. It's amazing. Oh my God. If you think TikTok is bad or something, I've never been on TikTok. Twitter is just the cesspool of the internet. The most opinionated people with they just want to give their opinions on everything. It's beautiful. It's so good.
Well, and I was on an abortion panel with all guys, and we actually just talked about the law. We didn't even get into abortion. The whole point was the Supreme Court ruling, and we were dragged for that, which I thought was a bit unfair. But I at this point, after doing this for so long, I kind of start to listen a little bit and wonder, maybe people aren't crazy out there. But it's a difficult subject.
Yeah.
Yeah, something I want to bring up is that like it is very important to have like women in conversations about women, or African Americans in conversations about African Americans. But like I said, one, this isn't like a place for making decisions that are necessarily affecting people's lives, right? People might watch this, and it like, if I'm a little girl watching Prime, like I don't know, well, there's no girls watching Prime. Just kidding. No, but if I'm a woman watching Prime's show, like I'm like 16, I'm like, oh my god, that looks so cool, and then like there's a panel about women, there's no women on there, I could feel like pretty disheartened maybe, but at the end of the day, like I'm sorry, Prime's not like doing a ton of damage. And to also talk about it, there is if you can't have the representation there are other steps you can take, like and I know Prime does this kind of stuff, is choosing who like is going to be the representation. So in a conversation about abortion, let's say he can't have a woman, there are probably certain people who Prime probably wouldn't invite to that conversation, right? He probably try his best to pick a cast that would cover the topic fairly, and while there might be some disagreement, he's going to make sure that like he does it in a responsible way, because I don't think just because you don't have representation doesn't mean that something can't be done responsibly. And I also don't think just because you have representation means that you cover things responsibly. For example, I might get hate for this, but I've seen a few like trans panels that are absolutely dog shit. It's like all trans people talking about trans issues, and they like they absolutely like forget or never mention trans men, because no one ever talks about trans men.
True.
Right?
Mhm.
Like the representation, even when you have representation, conversations can be really, really bad. It's not a substitution for responsible conversation. And not that every conversation has to be responsible. Should talk about some things. But if you're trying to have a responsible conversation, I think representation is a big part of that. But there's also a lot of other things you have to do. And just because you have the representation doesn't mean that conversation is going to be like super, super, super great.
So yeah, my friend GSU Gambit, he's talked about this before, and he said that he takes the opposite stance. He says he likes it, for instance, when he finds all white people talking about black issues, because it shows, one, that they might care, right? That is something worth their own discussion, even though it's maybe something that doesn't directly affect them. That like they want to engage with it, and he finds that it's worthwhile even when it's being done in a quote unquote irresponsible manner, because at the very least you're getting these opinions out there, right? Like understanding what people really feel about these things. That's all right. This is relating it back to something previously. That's why I wanted to do the all white everything panel, because I want to hear what white people have to think about stuff. I mean, because that's important.
The all milk toast everything panel.
It's not
the lukewarm takes panel.
It's not just what.
Sounds like my kind of panel.
It's not just what white people think they should be saying around black people. I want to know what white people think, period. And that they have the levers of power in our country. How is that not an important conversation to have? I'm all for representation. Absolutely. I think things are better with representation than without representation. But I think that if other people are, because we live in a heterogeneous society, other people are going to have opinions on things that don't directly affect them, and then they're going to vote on those things. So it's worth bringing them into the conversation and having discussions.
True.
You know what you gotta do, Prime? You gotta go on Omegle. Just get a random person, tell them to come on the panel. That'll be Omegle only panel.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that'll scheduling wise work out just that'll be super reliable. Yeah, I don't know. I think like somebody else should talk. So like, because I'm not sure I have too much to add on this particular subject. I just cut it into meme.
Scheduling is ridiculous.
We don't have to talk about scheduling all the time.
Yeah,
there is one little thing I want to say. People said that like to say that Prime's channel is small. He is in the top. He is well into the top 1% of Twitch streamers.
Oh, but that doesn't take that much. Like, I'm sorry.
I mean, yeah, but like in terms of the impact that he has on our like.
I'm sorry.
He isn't like a tiny fish, right? Like me out here in my fucking 5 years is a tiny fish.
He's a minnow.
Like a medium. He's like a medium-sized fish. Of course, if you look at the whales, like Hassan, like he's a baby.
Yeah,
but he still has like a decent reach, and that's like, which is awesome because we get to have conversations like this. Because there's a lot of people who probably couldn't put on great panels like he does.
Okay.
He's done.
No. Don't try to do that. No. I see what you did there. Okay. You're trying to butter up the toast. Hold on. Fuck that. I love Prime panel. Love Prime's panels. Okay. I am a tier 3 sub. I give money to this shit. I invest in this shit. I'm a mod. I love it so much. It's my favorite show on Twitch, hands down. That's why I do all that. You know. So I love Prime just as much as you do, Dolphin. Okay, I just like to point that out. Okay. Maybe even more.
All right.
Maybe
this
even
is a
more.
Very weird conversation. I did not mean to drive it in this direction. This is not my intention. This is not where I was going.
I got a question, Prime.
I just want to say something quickly about sizing, and I do want to get back to the topic at hand. This is not where I wanted to go with this, but just like in terms of size, like like this is useless comparing, like saying that I'm like the top 1% is like that word statistic about Twitch. You know, if you look at the graph of Twitch streamers, right, and the size of their channels, right, it's mostly like flat across this plane, and then it spikes up at the end, right, and like the vast majority of like the partners and everyone, like anyone who's making any money, they're in that very tiny sliver, right? But like there's literally no point in me comparing myself to the rest of Twitch, right, who like can't bake 3 viewers or something. Of course I'm not, you know, like criticizing anyone, but like those people, like those aren't my quote unquote peers. Like IRI here, he's a peer of mine, right? Like if I'm going to compare myself, I'll compare myself to him. I'll compare myself to people who are doing thousands of viewers per stream. Those are the people I compare myself. It's like no point doing that. Like, does that make myself feel better? Like this person who's been around and just has 2 viewers, right? Like, oh, I'm kicking their asses now. Look at me, I'm so great. No, you like compare yourself with your peers, and yeah. So I'll leave it there. But we don't have to talk about me. This is not what this panel is supposed to be about.
I love.
I agree, Prime. You've got me. You've won the debate, Prime. You beat me 1-on-1. You take the win. I submit.
Don't you dare insinuate otherwise, Dolphin. I swear to God, I will take the thing that harpoon. I will get a harpoon. Okay. I will go hunting.
Okay, all right.
In
all right.
Minecraft.
Back at it. Okay, women of color not getting attention. Holy shit. Oh my God. This panel has gone off the rails. IRI, I am sorry. Like you came here, I want to put my best foot forward, but then I put my regular busted in a cast foot forward. So
I love you, Prime. I know you. You're just. This is a lot of fun. Don't worry. You guys. It's all good. I'm enjoying this for sure.
Okay. So another thing that I wanted to talk about is what exactly are we expecting the media to do, right? Because there is a limited amount of time of airtime, just period, right? Now I'll start with that CNN and MSNBC and any other 24-hour news network has the fucking time to do lots of things they're not doing, rather than repeating the same story over and over again, right? Hour after hour after hour. Rather than doing that, there's so many things they could be tackling. So putting that aside, still, there's a finite amount of airtime that you can dedicate to anything. Even if you did it 24 hours a day, there's still a finite amount of time. So there are, as I understand it, like thousands of people who go missing per year. Like we would have to have a separate news network, like direct that's dedicated just to this, to give it the level of attention that like Gabby Petito has gotten, other people like Natalie Holloway, right? And those are household names. So like, what are we like? Even on the best circumstances, the media will only, and the public will only have so much attention span for anything, right? For instance, like the wars that we have for 20 years. Like people just stop paying attention to that stuff, right? So people only have a certain amount of attention span. So at best, the media could just present a few of these cases. And what are they going to present? Like, again, what are we asking here? They're going to present the a news story. If you present a list of cases to them, right? Just equally. What are they going to pick out of the pile? Okay, we'll have women of color. Well, we're going to have someone who's unattractive, who's less sympathetic in terms of her background, right? Like, what if she's a sex worker, right? They go missing all the time. They suffer extreme violence all the time. But our society is simply not less sympathetic to those people. Do you think a news agency is ever going to spend time on them? What about people who are disabled, or who have some sort of mental disability, or right? Like all those things play into it. So like I'm thinking literally in the best case scenario that we could have them cover women of color every so often, just like these stories, even with the white women's stories, they don't happen every day, right? It would happen every so often, and still you'd end up with more or less a pretty preference, because that's what there's a reason why you don't have quote unquote ugly people, quote unquote, who are news anchors, right? Everyone is like fairly attractive.
Like, this is exactly like the point I wanted to make after the NPR, like the second NPR point that I try, or the, like if we made a second NPR, I think that'd be great. But like ultimately, you know, we would need to watch it in order for that to mean anything. And like that's the problem. People, it's just like what Nathan said, like people aren't watching NPR, they're watching whatever, the other shit, you know, the thing that's
Fox
more
News is
exciting.
what they're watching.
It seems like there's like a business opportunity almost for like a somebody to come in and make news something that is like not only entertaining and exciting to watch but meaningful in its content. But and like again though, but this is almost like a subjective opinion based thing. What is meaningful to you? And unfortunately I think like it, again, like I kind of have said, like it goes to what it speaks to our psyche as Americans. Like it speaks to what we want to consume, that something like this is getting so much news coverage. It's because everyone knows about it and is interested in it. My mom, everyone I know knows about this story. You know what I mean? I'm just, and I'm a part of it. I'm a part of that sickness. You know, I'm coughing all over the internet.
Please, Anna, love to hear from you.
Oh, I was just gonna kind of use like a reminder. Like, I know that like, you know, the whole pretty privilege or attractiveness privilege, you know, but it's also important to keep in mind that like, okay, so, you know, the fact that like news anchors are usually like, yeah, attractive, like women, particularly the women, that's also like, in a way, it's also like this weird kind of, because it's kind of also about how the fact of, it's still kind of upholding the fact that like women are still ultimately like their primary worth, it's still in society is judged by their appearances, whether they are attractive or not. And so like that in itself, like obviously that's not a privilege, but yeah, I just wanted to mention that aspect of it as well, that it's like a sexual objectification thing too. And also, you know, we do know that research does show that like, you know, unattractive women are judged way more harshly than like unattractive men. Same with like fat women are judged way more harshly than fat men. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. Nathan?
Yeah, 100%. Like I think that's spot on. Like there's a reason that the Spanish news networks all have I'm just saying I'm not gonna say anything for it. We all know what I'm talking about.
Look,
I don't even need to say it.
I don't show my ass.
Prime's memeing, but I genuinely don't know what you're talking. What's up with the Spanish
I'll show my
news
ass
network?
on this. He's talking about, you know, Spanish language news, right? And I'm gonna show my ass on this. In college, I discovered Spanish soap operas, like the telenovelas. Oh my god.
Only in college, or like in college you discovered? That's a little late.
I mean, like I knew they existed, but like I didn't like sit down and watch them because actually, yeah, very quickly.
Oh yeah.
Very quickly. I had like in college, I had also got into like English language soap operas, right? Like I actually got really deep into that for like a second. And then I got my roommate into it. He was like, "No, this is stupid. Why are you watching this?" And then he saw me watching it, and he started sitting with me, and then he's like, "Oh, okay, I'm completely invested in these stories." So I got really into that. But then I discovered Spanish language soap operas, right? I don't know Spanish. I don't fucking anything about Spanish, right? But I watched a lot of those things because the women were so attractive. Oh my god, the women were so beautiful. It's just like, it's not even close. Like it was just like the, oh my god, just
Prime confirmed Cooper.
I'm sorry,
thing?
so beautiful.
Like
I'm sorry.
Are like Spanish like news anchors like really beautiful too? Is that like a thing?
Yeah, the ones I saw, the ones I remember, are just. Oh, sorry. Okay, we're done. We can move past that. But yeah, when you know, that's real.
I didn't know this. That's crazy. What I kind of wanted to. What were we even talking about? I was ready.
The objectification.
The objectification.
Of women.
And I did it too.
Yeah.
I apologize.
Before that,
Jesus.
It was so beautiful.
Prime, look, look, okay, while we're in the mood.
Okay, hold on. I just
Okay,
remembered this, okay? I think it the objectification thing's cool. I'm gonna like move a little bit away from that. I think something that's really important is that when you make recommendations, not every good thing, it's really good to like focus on process, and outcomes are important too, but they don't always have to have amazing outcomes, right? So like a really good example is like, I'm going to keep coming back to this because this is the best example I have, is like having a diverse set of opinions in the conversation. Or like when you're in media, let's say you're in NBA media, right? You can have women in that conversation. It's probably okay if you never cover a woman because there's no women in the NBA, right? Now, I'm not saying basketball, because basketball obviously there's the WNBA and stuff like that. But like if you're specifically covering like the NBA and their teams, you're never going to have a woman. And that's probably fine. That outcome's probably okay because like women aren't in the NBA. If you're covering like LeBron James's stats, there's not a woman to have in that conversation. Or so it is very possible that you can have a bunch of diverse opinions in the conversation, and at the end of the day, the outcome's not there in certain places, but in other places, the outcomes dramatically increase. Right? You include women in the NBA news, and it's all black guys still because that's who's in the NBA. But ESPN includes women in the conversation, and now you have people talking about Serena Williams more. You have people talking about volleyball players or women's tennis players and WNBA players more. And so I think it's really good to focus on trying to create good systems and processes that will produce good outcomes. And if in some places the good outcomes don't come, you have to recognize, well, that sucks. It can be okay at the end of the day.
One thing I noticed.
Nathan's been waiting, and then we'll go to IRA.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. First of all, if pretty privilege is a thing, I definitely got it. But besides that, if we're like thinking about like some practical ways we can get more light onto the stories and the struggles of people of color, especially with like the missing women, for example, I wish the news and the media could take a more macro picture approach. Ultimately, like these individual stories will be told, like the one about the missing white woman. But if the media could also say, along with that broadcasting, hey, there's also been this amount of missing women in general, this amount of missing indigenous women, this amount of missing black women, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If they could do that, I think that would be a huge step in the right direction. Another thing that's a step in the right direction, got to bring it back to Prime's channel here. Channels like Prime and other independent media, I think, are changing the landscape. Like I said earlier, some people in chat were saying like, "Oh, Hassan's not a celebrity." Bro's been on like red carpets. Dude's been around the biggest streamers on Twitch, and dude's big on other platforms like Instagram. His uncle's Cenk Uygur, bro. Biggest celebrity in the world.
Hassan ain't that big. He's a
he's a tiny fish in the world of celebrities. He's big to us.
Yeah. Oh,
he's
no,
a
100%,
fucking
100%.
He's
He's
to
not.
us.
Look,
but then imagine how
he's not
small
even.
that
He's not
makes.
even.
He's us. The point being, he's not LeBron James. I understand that. In all seriousness,
all of us
like,
together combined, multiplied by 10,
now, but he's not even
LeBron.
Technically the biggest figure that Twitch has ever seen either, right?
Yeah,
like,
for sure. He's the biggest political. He's the biggest political
gone mainstream
figure.
from Twitch was like Ninja, right? Like he's like one of the very, very, very few people who have broken in the mainstream.
And mainstream,
he's probably played with
like,
Ninja.
Remember,
but besides that, like
it's oh my god! Just because somebody makes it on a Call of Duty commercial does not mean that it's broken into the mainstream.
Exactly,
I'm sorry.
thank you.
Can we just can we
literally
stop
on
gooming over
Ellen,
these
dog.
fucking
Like, come
Twitch
on.
celebrities that are so much bigger than us?
It's not.
Please.
It's not the same. They're not household names in the same way.
Exactly.
That like Arnold Schwarzenegger is a household name. Maybe he's unfair because he was a governor. But like you can name any number of celebrities, and they still outclass Ninja, right? Maybe in a few years, maybe in when this like current young generation grows up, and then maybe like Twitch people will have more of a status because then among that crowd they'll be a bit more legitimized, maybe. But like that's a long shot. Will this sort of a medium still be around at that point? That's a long shot. So
let me make a prediction, if I may. I think that we're already seeing the more mainstream these celebrities are getting, from AOC and Jagmeet Singh playing on Twitch with Pokimane and Asan and all these other people. You got people like Bella Porch, who surpasses all of them. She has what? Let's see here, 82 million followers on TikTok, and she's branched out and made big music. I've heard her music on Japanese television when I was eating at a ramen shop. They were broadcasting it from Japan. So I think we are kind of underestimating the shift of what we consider famous. But with that in mind, the broader point I was making with like fame, people like Prime, people like the other streamers we interact with, people like the Young Turks, David Pacman, Secular Talk, Sam Cedar, etc. I think we are going to see better discourse as we get a little older and within our lifetimes, because the discourse is becoming more democratized, which I think we're going to see good
100%
things.
agree with that, which is why I disagreed with the original take of manufacturing, of the
Yes,
media
yeah,
being
yeah.
manufactured. That's why I disagree with that, because it is becoming more like it's us. We are creating the what the media landscape looks like now. Like, fucking, do you think we watch CNN? What the fuck?
I
Do
don't.
any
I
of
don't
us
have
watch
cable.
CNN? Like,
hold on.
I'm
IRI
sorry.
definitely watches. IRI.
I love me some CNN. That's
and
my
his C-SPAN. That's his bread and butter.
C-SPAN. Yeah,
so-
I do want to say that like I think we're shortchanging ourselves here. Like smaller influencers do have an impact, especially when presidential elections are decided by less than 100,000 votes in some cases.
True.
Arizona, 10,000 votes. So I mean, you really don't have to impact that many people to have a huge impact on the world. I agree, you're not a mainstream celebrity like Will Smith or something, but at the same time, you have a much more intimate relationship with people and are very influential in their lives. I mean, you mean a lot to them. I do want to bring up a point of something I think we haven't touched on, and maybe we can skip over this, but the juxtaposition of the story of the treatment of the Haitian migrants at our southern border, where we have white Border Patrol agents on horseback whipping horse reins near them and charging at them. And so for people to see the way that Black people are treated on American soil, juxtaposed with this white woman being held up in high regards, and that issue of how those migrants were treated not talked about with such fervor, I think that is what's kind of driving some people to really focus on this missing white women syndrome right now. And I think it's a fair criticism.
so I think it's a fair criticism. So I think it's a fair criticism, but I don't know why. I don't know what. I can't put it into words, but I have a feeling whenever I hear this, and when it's not maybe like clarified with like, it's still really fucked up, like what happened here, and like this is still just another case of a man murdering a woman, a lover rather murdering a woman, which is like, and again, like I just looked this up, and it's apparently getting worse. I saw stats from 2005 that said this was one third of women getting killed were from their
significant others or sexual partners.
significant. Thank you. And now and then I believe the
half.
other one was 2020. Yeah, exactly. It's going up significantly. I didn't read more into that, like why, but
femicide is rampant in like Latin America, actually. In Mexico, it's just unbelievable, how high it is. It's absolutely to epidemic levels of this femicide, and the violence is just extreme. Like, and like the type of violence they're suffering is just. I'm not trying to get Americans off, because Americans like to do this thing like, well, we're not like the Middle East, like we're not tossing, like in the Middle East and just in general, like we're not tossing gays off of roofs, right?
They like to fucking compare us to the lowest common, like, or the fucking just getting above the bar.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I'm not trying to get us off like the violence that women are facing here is terrible as well, and it's absolutely a problem. I'm just saying that there are other places where it's even bigger, it's even more pronounced, but this is a worldwide issue, and I don't. It's something that we, I guess, really didn't get a chance to dig into, because it's a huge issue. Like, it's something that we have to, I guess it's a whole other panel, a whole other thing in itself, is like the causes of this level of violence, right? Like, we spent all this time talking about this pretty woman who suffered and died, but like, why did that happen? Why is this so common? Why is it that when this happens, we already have like a storyline in our heads, right? That people are saying, well, why didn't you just like grab the boyfriend, right? Like, why isn't he immediately a suspect? Well, it's because it's oftentimes exactly what you've said. Like, that's the story. It's their romantic partner. We already know this. Like, even if you don't know the stat, you know it, right? That you can expect male violence to women. So like, why is that? Like, what is that about? What is the mindset that leads to this? Obviously, it's not all one thing, you know, but there's common trends that we can do. But like, it's just like it's like background radiation. Like, the violence towards women is such background radiation that we just kind of ignore it. You know, it's white noise, and so. And we pay attention to other like punctuated violence rather than like the constant violence to women. For instance, like a murder spree, right? You know, with like a mass shooting type thing, right? That's punctuated violence that happens. It's immediate. It's something that we can see, right? All in one spot. But like, the amount of women who are dying from this epidemic of violence from male partners, that's happening all the time, but their bodies aren't laid out in a roll, you know? But like, it's a bigger issue.
Yeah, I guess that's why like, when I guess I was pushing, this is exactly why I was pushing back when I was like, well, there's a reason that we are, at least like myself, am interested in this, is because there's a lot of different facets to it. Like, there's this facet of like exactly what you were saying, and how there's like, this is just like, it's almost like a fucking epidemic in and of itself. I don't know using that word nowadays, but like, you know, you get what I mean though. It seems like this is a big fucking problem, and like, as men, or something like that, not to fucking genderize it like that, but like, we seem, as a society, we seem to need to have a conversation about it. And like, you were bringing up like, you were giving your anecdote about the Spanish telenovelas and stuff like that. Well, like, I was talking with my girlfriend about this earlier, and I was telling her like, I can't, maybe like early 20s, I began to notice that I would treat my mom very differently than than like everybody else. And then I started to notice, like, it would kind of be, it was actually like women that I was treating a little bit differently. The way I would do it is I would cut them off. The way I noticed it, at least, was like, I would cut them off in conversation.
You cut off fucking everyone in conversation. Like,
I know,
it's
right?
displayed right here.
I know, right? Well, okay. So like, but it was something I noticed, and that like I did, and that I didn't do to like my male counterparts, essentially, or like people
so you
that I
evened
viewed.
it out? Is that what you did? You're like, okay, I'm just gonna.
I was like, you know what?
Side.
And then I fucking solved sexism on my own. I solved it for myself. No, like, no, it was just one of the things that I noticed. Like, you know, these are unconscious biases that we should talk about and not feel so like, you know, it's kind of taboo to talk about it, I think, almost, because it's like I'm admitting a pretty serious fault on my end, you know, like, in how I was like communicating with certain people. But like, you know, I think by acknowledging it, that's the only way we can move forward. So good on you for being truthful, Prime. That's all I was trying to say.
Yeah, I heard that. All the men need to come out. My name is Top Dolphin, and I am not a sexist, but Captain A. Jones is for sure. 100%. He just admitted to it live on stream.
I'm gonna add sexist. Wow. I'm sexist, anti-Semitic, racist, and towards the great kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
True.
And what else? God, ever since I came onto these Pride panels, I never realized how horrible of a person I was.
You know, I have I am a misogynist. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Christ.
Okay.
Well,
JK.
I mean,
lol.
in all fairness, these are things that I've, like I said at the beginning of the stream, that I'm kind of debating within my own mind. Like I say, I describe women as hot chicks sometimes, and like I said, I treat women a little differently when it comes to life. Like I was brought up, you never hit a woman, right? You should never hit anybody, right? But I was brought up like you never hit a woman, and you never raise your voice at a woman. It's uncouth to yell at a woman and stuff, So these are kind of things that are. All of us have stuff we can work on, I think.
So
And I think all this contributes to, in the end, the news and feeding us these stories, because it all kind of plays into that.
so
I really liked what you said at the beginning too, like how you how. I'm sorry, go
I'm gonna tackle this real quick because we don't have much time left in this
Yeah,
particular panel. But to IRI, look, we've actually been having this discussion. I think it was 3 nights ago. We went deep into this discussion about how we treat women within this political space, and I'm actually really curious on your position on this as well, because I took the opposite stance in that I feel like I shouldn't treat women any differently, right? When Top Dolphin has a terrible idea, right? He's got like a really shit take. It happens often, right? So what I do, I correct him, and my voice gets very loud when I do it, and I get very aggravated if he's not like if he doesn't immediately roll over and admit that I'm right. But when a woman is on this platform as well, I do the same. I do the exact same. To her, and I feel like that's treating them with respect, and that not treating them differently as if they are like wilting flowers that will fall apart the moment that you do that. However, in the context of a relationship, so like when I'm in a relationship with a woman, I will never raise my voice at them. Like, doesn't matter like what's going on. I don't yell at my partner, but it's not because I think they're a woman and like that my voice would be in itself problematic. It's more that I think that within an adult relationship, we can solve things without yelling at each other, right? We can just listen to each other. We just take the time to listen and to understand each other. There's no reason to raise your voice at your significant other. So like I think. I don't know. That's my opinion on a better way of doing this. So, just what are your basic thoughts, and then we're gonna have to move on because it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, my first reaction is to say, yeah, I should be yelling at women too. It's
exactly.
the pro-feminism.
She's right there. Go ahead.
Oh my god! Oh my god! No! What the fuck? No!
I will be yelling at all women.
I don't know if that's how it is.
I will be yelling at all women I interact with now, just for the sake
damn
of
it,
feminism.
Anna.
It's the exact opposite. Okay, because it's like I was. My girlfriend said
You did
the
it
exact
again.
same thing.
You literally
She said,
interrupted him.
"I don't want to
You did
be
it
treated
again.
differently," and I said, "But as
I am
a
joking.
dude."
Can I say that? Can I just say I'm joking? I'll let you keep going.
Go ahead.
No, you weren't. All right,
like
I
in a
know you
video
were
game.
serious. No, but like she said the same thing. She was like, "I want to be treated equally," and I was like, "But what I'm trying to tell you is that in my head, I need to tell myself that I need to treat you better." You know what I mean? It's not that I need to treat you better than a man. It's that I need to treat you better. Period. That's like in my head what I had to tell myself to get out of like to after I like I guess notice this problem, you could say, with me, that I had to fucking mentally fucking tackle it. And how I did it was to say like, this is like, I need to treat women better. Not, and like, yeah, I'm a mama's boy, so yeah, I'm kind of like fucking, all men are trash. But at the same time, and look, okay, yeah, my dad. Okay, look, I had a personal experience. Okay, I'm I got daddy issues. Okay, I don't want to talk about it.
Well, I just want to add too that somebody actually brought up to me when I started talking about this that it kind of like assuming that you should be treating women the same, right? In general, you should, but the idea of yelling at a woman is discounts the threatening aggression women face too, and it's kind of a little complicated in that regards that women do have to fear their safety in general, and So I don't know. I really don't know yet, Prime. I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah, same here. Same here. I don't say I had necessarily
That's
the
fair.
proper answer here.
Yeah.
So topped off in Nathan. I know you guys are excited, so I'll get you guys in. And then Anna, if she has anything else to say, topped off in.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm super excited. So I think it's I think the very the biggest step to this kind of stuff is I want to say like catching the moment in which you do things and thinking about it. Because if I feel like if everyone is trying to be better, and you're noticing these moments and you're asking these questions, is way better than a world where no one does it. And you might not be perfect, but if you're moving in the right direction, you'll eventually get there. Me personally, there's a lot of different things. Like, I mean, I yell at women all the time. If Anna was up here saying some dumb fucking shit, believe me, I would be screaming at her. But like, it also depends because like like in my personal life, I you guys think I just do this thing on Twitch? No, I talk like this to my friends too. I yell at my friends, I debate my friends because this is the type of person that I am. And with different friends, I have different levels of aggression that I use, right? Like, and regardless of gender, I have some of my like one of my best friends, she's like Korean. We get into fucking screaming matches because she can handle it and I can handle it. And so we just yell back and forth at the top of our lungs. And I have male friends who are a little bit fragile, and if I raise my voice, they start crying. And like and it's one about being more communicating and being more empathetic with the people around you. It's about understanding what like different people can deal with. But it's also, like I said, very important, especially when you're dealing with strangers or if you're on panels like this, which is like most people aren't on panels like this, but if you are, but when you're dealing with strangers, is noticing the way that you might treat different groups of people and seeing if like the reason you're doing it is because of it is not right. Am I talking down to this woman or using certain language because she's a woman, or am I doing it because she's dumb as fuck? Right? Like that's kind of like the thoughts, and you just think about these things as you go about your everyday life.
I think you brought up an interesting point in like talking down to people. Something that happens regularly is and you notice among politicians because it's most pronounced, but it happens among regular people as well. Is that when they're speaking to African Americans, they'll use simpler language. They'll like shorter words, simpler like lower grade words when talking to that crowd. They got Hillary Clinton good on this one. Like she definitely did that, but she's not the only one. Like I don't mean to just pick on her, but like they'll do this, and you'll see it among African Americans too, right? Speaking of other African Americans, since like, but why? Why? So that's the thing that happens. So yeah, something to keep track of. Nathan.
So women, I like women.
Me too, buddy.
I think we should respect women. And in my opinion, I think you should treat women as you treat men. And that means you should be respectful to men. You should be respectful to women. If you're respectful to both, then there should be no problem. I think that if some people want to like talk about like the relationship aspect, if your partner wants more chivalrous things, then do it. But if they're chill, then they're chill. You don't gotta always open the door for them. Sometimes they can open the door for you. I would love someone to open the door for me. But yeah, I think that on Twitch or like in political discourse in general, I think it is the more respectful thing to do to treat women like you would treat a man. So like if you're like an aggressive debater and you cut people off or something, that's just your style, then I don't expect you to change it just because you're debating a woman, because that woman could be saying that woman could be Candace Owens. If you're don't be soft on Candace Owens.
Right.
I cannot wait. I hope, and maybe it won't happen, but Logan Paul did talk about potentially debating Candace Owens. I hope that he brings on Bosch to the Impulsive podcast, and I hope Bosch goes off on her live in front of the normies. But with that in mind, my mindset, like I have a lot of female friends, so like they don't want like, and like in general, not this isn't just a female thing, but people don't like being underestimated, So like if you're like playing Smash with somebody and you're holding back and you like lose your stock because you want to be nice to them, they'll be like, why are you doing that? We're playing a game, It's annoying. So treat people equally, treat people with respect, and if equality comes with a bit of rudeness, then that is what it is. But overall, be respectful.
Okay. All right.
Also, treat people the way they want to be treated. I think is really important.
I think that's super important. Everybody's an individual, and you gotta treat people individually. Some people can take a ribbing, and some people like it and enjoy it. And I'm one of those people. I love the blood sports. Some people are not, and we should cater to this is going back to the other discussion we were having the other night about women on Twitch panels. Like, it's not about being nice to their points of views. It's just about not fucking screaming over them. And maybe just letting people finish their points. And if you feel like you're not being given the fair amount of time, bring that up with the moderators. But screaming maybe isn't the best thing. But I will scream. Oh, I will.
Anna.
Oh,
Sorry, we gotta move on. Anna.
Yeah.
If you have anything to add.
Not really.
Okay.
Pretty much agree with everyone though.